Hi everyone. Welcome to Azad Revenge Stories channel. I keep replaying that voicemail in my head. 9:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, my phone lighting up with her name, Darlene from HR. And I stared at it. Let it go to voicemail because I couldn't. I physically could not make myself answer that woman's call after everything she put me through. Hi, Meredith. It's Darlene calling from Human Resources. I know it's late, but we've had some developments today that require immediate attention. Please call me back as soon as you get this. We'd like to discuss some exciting new opportunities regarding your position and compensation package. Exciting opportunities. That's what she called it. After 7 months of making me feel like I was asking for the moon when all I wanted was to work from my own apartment. I'm getting ahead of myself. I always do that when I tell this story. Jump to the end, because the middle still makes me so angry. I can barely see straight. My name's Meredith. I'm 34 now, but I was 31 when this all went down. And before I go any further, please like this video and subscribe because I need to know I'm not alone in this. Where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments if you've ever had HR make you feel like you were being completely unreasonable for asking for something that literally every other company was already doing. Because that's what this is about. Being gaslit by the very people who are supposed to advocate for employees. I'd been at Brennan Systems for 6 years. Started as a junior analyst right out of my master's program. Worked my way up to senior data analytics manager. I was good at my job. No, scratch that. I was excellent at my job. My team consistently delivered the highest quality insights. We'd saved the company millions through process improvements I'd identified, and I'd built relationships with clients that kept them renewing contracts year after year. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about being good at your job. Sometimes it makes you a target. Sometimes it makes you too valuable to lose, but not valuable enough to accommodate. The first time I asked about remote work was completely reasonable. This was February 2022, and my mom had just been diagnosed with early-stage dementia. She lived 45 minutes away, and I thought if I could work from home, even just 2 or 3 days a week, I could check on her during lunch, help with her medications, make sure she was eating. I filled out the formal request through our employee portal, wrote this whole detailed proposal about how I'd maintain productivity, how my team was already distributed across 3 offices anyway, how all our meetings were virtual. I even included studies showing remote workers in our industry performed better. 2 weeks later, I got the email from Darlene. Form rejection. After careful consideration, we've determined that your role requires enough presence to maintain team cohesion and company culture. Team cohesion. My team, and I only saw in person maybe twice a month anyway because half of them worked in the Denver office. But okay, fine. I figured maybe I needed to make a stronger case. So I scheduled a meeting with my direct manager, Amit. Sweetest guy. Been nothing but supportive my entire time there. He said he'd absolutely support my request. Thought it made perfect sense, especially with my mom's situation. Round 2, March 2022. This time, Amit co-signed my request, wrote this glowing recommendation about my ability to self-manage my track record of exceeding goals. I rewrote my whole proposal, made it even more detailed, added contingency plans, success metrics, offered to come in for any essential in-person meetings. This time it took them 3 weeks to reject it. Same form letter, but with an added line. We appreciate your dedication to both your career and family obligations, but believe maintaining standard office hours is essential for your role. Standard office hours. While our CEO was literally working from his house in Tahoe 4 days a week. The third time. God, the third time. Still makes my chest tight. This was April, and my mom had had a fall. Nothing serious, thank God. But it scared me. I was sitting in the hospital waiting room when I submitted that third request, and I actually broke down and told them everything. Put it right there in the request. My mom's diagnosis, her living alone, me being her only child, the fall, all of it. They didn't even give me a form rejection that time. Darlene called me into her office. Meredith, she said, sitting behind that massive desk of hers with her hands folded like she was about to deliver a eulogy. "I understand you're going through a difficult time with your mother." I remember thinking, okay, maybe she gets it. Maybe this is where they show some humanity, but we need to maintain consistency in our policies. If we make an exception for you, we'd have to make exceptions for everyone with family situations. I'm sure you understand. I didn't understand. I still don't understand because Jennifer from accounting had been working from home 3 days a week since her baby was born, and Craig from it hadn't set foot in the office since 2020. But when I pointed that out professionally, calmly just stating facts, Darlene's face went cold. "Those situations are different," she said. "Their roles were determined to be remote eligible. Yours is not. What makes my role different?" I asked the nature of the work, which is what specifically. She actually shuffled papers on her desk instead of answering me. Shuffled papers like this was 1987, and she was looking for some important document instead of just avoiding eye contact. "It's been determined by leadership," she finally said. "I'm not at liberty to discuss the specific criteria." That night, I went home and cried in my car for 20 minutes before I could even walk into my apartment. Not pretty tears, either. The ugly kind, where you can't breathe and your nose runs and you're making these horrible gulping sounds. Because it wasn't just about the rejection. It was about feeling so powerless, so dismissed, so unseen. But here's where I made my mistake. I kept trying. The fourth request was in May. Mom had another fall. This time broke her wrist. I submitted the request from her hospital room at 2:00 in the morning. Probably wasn't even coherent. Rejection came back in less than 24 hours. They were getting efficient at crushing my soul. The fifth time I tried a different approach. June 2022, I requested a meeting with Darlene and her boss, the VP of HR. This woman named Patricia, who always wore these expensive scarves and smiled like she was in a toothpaste commercial. I prepared a whole presentation, brought printed copies of my performance reviews. All exceeds expectations, brought letters from 3 major clients saying they didn't care where I worked from as long as I kept delivering results. Brought a letter from my mom's doctor explaining her condition and why having family support nearby was crucial. Patricia listened to the whole thing with that pageant smile frozen on her face. Then she looked at Darlene, and I swear there was this moment of silent communication between them like they'd already decided before I even walked in. "Meredith," Patricia said, "we appreciate how thorough you've been, but I need you to understand something. Your role has been classified as non-remote. This isn't a decision we make lightly, and it's not one we can change based on individual circumstances, no matter how compelling." "But why?" I actually begged. I'm not proud of it, but I begged. "Just tell me why my role is different from the dozens of other people who do similar work from home." Patricia's smile never wavered. "It's a complex decision based on multiple factors, but I want you to know we value you tremendously. Have you considered our employee assistance program? They offer resources for elder care support. Employee assistance program, like a hotline and some pamphlets were going to help maybe in 2 places at once." The sixth time was different. This was August, and I was angry, not sad anymore, not frustrated, angry. I submitted my request with a single line, requesting remote work arrangement for previously stated family medical reasons. Please provide written explanation for any denial. This time, the rejection came from legal, not HR. Legal. Some associate general counsel I'd never heard of sent me a 3-page letter full of corporate speak about policy frameworks and operational requirements and at-will employment reminders. The subtext was clear: stop asking or face consequences. But I was already facing consequences. I was burning through my PTO, checking on my mom, paying for elder care I couldn't afford, showing up to work exhausted because I'd spent half the night driving back and forth. My team noticed my work was slipping. Not a lot, but enough. Enough that Amit pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay. No, I told him. Nothing is okay. But apparently that doesn't matter. He looked so uncomfortable. "Have you thought about maybe looking at other options?" "You mean other jobs?" He didn't answer, but he didn't have to. That night, I updated my LinkedIn profile, started casual conversations with recruiters. Nothing serious, just testing the waters. And that's when things got interesting because every single company I talked to, everyone offered hybrid or fully remote options as standard, not special accommodations, not exceptions to policy. Standard. One recruiter actually laughed when I asked about it. Are there still companies that don't offer remote work in this market? Yeah, there were. The seventh and final request. September 2022. I knew it was pointless, but I needed to do it one more time. For the record, for my own sense of, I don't know, closure maybe. This time, I kept it simple, requesting remote work accommodation. This is my seventh formal request. Previous 6 requests denied without substantive explanation. My mother's condition has deteriorated. I need flexibility to provide care while maintaining my professional responsibilities. Please respond with specific measurable criteria that would need to be met for approval. The response came directly from Darlene C. Singh Patricia and that legal guy. It wasn't just a rejection, it was a warning. Words like pattern of behavior and unwillingness to accept policy decisions and potential performance management steps. They were threatening me for asking to work from home while our stock price hit record highs based partly on analytics work my team had done. I printed out that email. Still have it somewhere. Printed it because I needed physical proof that this had really happened. I hadn't imagined how cruel and arbitrary it all was. That was a Tuesday. By Friday, I'd done something I'd never done in 6 years. I called in sick when I wasn't. I just couldn't make myself go into that building, sit at that desk, pretend everything was fine. I spent the day with my mom instead, helping her organize old photos. She kept asking who I was and each time felt like a little death. Monday morning, I walked back into the office and something had shifted. I could feel it in the way people looked at me or didn't look at me. Amit barely made eye contact in our morning stand-up. Jennifer from accounting, who I thought was a friend, suddenly had urgent calls every time I walked by her desk. Word had gotten out. Meredith was a troublemaker. Meredith couldn't accept no for an answer. Meredith thought she was special. But here's what they didn't know. 3 of my best team members had also been quietly looking for other jobs. Not because of me, but because they saw how I was being treated and realized this company didn't actually care about its people, just the appearance of caring. Kendra was the first to give notice. October 3D. I'll never forget. She knocked on my office door, and I use that term loosely because it was really just a cubicle with higher walls. Looking like she might cry. "I'm so sorry," she said, "but I got an offer I can't refuse." I told her not to apologize. Told her I was happy for her, and I was genuinely. Texlo had offered her a 30% raise and full remote flexibility. Why would she stay? Then Jacob left. Same week. Then Prier the week after that. All 3 of them went to our biggest competitor. All 3 of them got massive raises. All 3 of them got to work from wherever they wanted. And suddenly my phone started ringing. The first call came from Amit. October 20th around 4:00 in the afternoon. I was in the middle of trying to assign Kendra's workload to our remaining team members, which was like trying to fit a watermelon into a shot glass when he showed up at my cubicle looking like someone had died. "Can we talk?" He couldn't even look at me, just stared at his shoes like they held the secrets of the universe. We went to one of those awful glass conference rooms where everyone can see you but not hear you, so you feel like a mime acting out corporate tragedy. He closed the door and just stood there for a second, hands in his pockets. "They are panicking," he finally said. "Who's panicking?" "Leadership." Patricia called an emergency meeting this morning. 3 of our best analysts gone to TechFlow in 2 weeks. And apparently he paused, rubbed his face. Apparently, TechFlow's been reaching out to more of our team, offering significant packages. I kept my face neutral, professional, even though inside I was thinking, good, good. Let them panic. I'm doing my best to redistribute the work, I said, but we are going to need to hire Meredith. He cut me off. "They want to know if you've been in contact with TechFlow." The accusation hit me like cold water. If I've been what? You think I orchestrated this? I don't think anything. I'm just telling you what they're asking. My team members are grown adults who can make their own career decisions. The fact that they're all choosing to leave might say more about this company than about me. He flinched, actually flinched because we both knew I was right. The next few days were surreal. Suddenly, executives who hadn't acknowledged my existence in years were stopping by my cubicle for casual chats. The same VP who'd sat in meetings scrolling through his phone while I presented quarterly results now wanted to know how I was doing, how my mom was doing, if there was anything the company could do to support me. It was insulting, transparent, and way too late. Then came the meeting that made me laugh out loud. Actually laugh right there in Patricia's office, which probably wasn't my smartest move, but I couldn't help it. This was October 25. Patricia, Darlene, and some SVP I'd never met called me in for what they called a retention conversation. They sat me down across from them, 3 against 1, very subtle, and Patricia launched into this speech about how valued I was, how critical my role was to the organization's success. "We realize," she said with that same pageant smile, but now with visible stress cracks, "that we haven't done enough to show our appreciation for your contributions." That's when I laughed. Not a polite chuckle, a real laugh, the kind that comes from deep in your chest when the absurdity of a situation just breaks something in your brain. "I'm sorry," I said. "Not sorry at all. It's just I've been trying to tell you how you could show appreciation for 7 months very specifically in writing 7 times. Darlene shifted in her chair. "We understand your frustration, dear," I interrupted. "Another thing I'd never done in 6 years because 2 weeks ago you threatened me with performance management for asking to work from home. And now 3 people have quit and suddenly you want to have a retention conversation." The SVP, I think his name was Richard, cleared his throat. "The situation has evolved. It, or have the consequences of your decisions finally become inconvenient for you?" They all looked at each other, and I could see them recalculating. The troublemaker they'd been ready to manage out was now the only person standing between them and a complete departmental collapse. "What would it take," Patricia asked carefully, "for you to feel supported in your role going forward?" I almost said it then, almost laid out exactly what it would take. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was strategy. Or maybe I just wanted them to sweat a little longer. "I'll think about it," I said. "I need to get back to work. We're pretty short-staffed." The calls started that night. First, Amit begging me to be reasonable to consider the team. Then Patricia leaving voicemails about exploring flexible arrangements. Then at 9:43 p.m., "Darling," I let every single one go to voicemail. The next day, 2 more people on my team gave notice. Not to Techful this time, to various companies that had recruited them with offers they'd been sitting on, waiting to see which way the wind was blowing. The wind apparently was blowing toward the exits. October 27th, Friday. I walked into the office to find a gift basket on my desk, expensive chocolates, a SPAR gift certificate, a handwritten note from Patricia about how much they value my leadership. I gave the chocolates to the security guard and tossed the note in the recycling. It looked like he hadn't slept in days. "They're offering to revisit your remote work request," he whispered, glancing around like we were discussing state secrets. "Are they?" "Meredith, please. The department is falling apart." "The department is fine," I said. "It's the staffing that's falling apart. And that's not my fault." But here's where it gets really interesting. Because that afternoon, I got a call from a recruiter. Not just any recruiter. Techflow's head of talent acquisition. "Miss Morrison, I'm calling because several of your former team members have spoken very highly of your leadership. We are building out a new analytics division and we'd love to discuss a director position, fully remote of course, and the compensation." She named a number that made me sit down. "That's just base salary. There's also equity, signing bonus, full benefits, including elder care support." I told her I'd think about it, hung up, sat there in my cubicle, staring at the motivational poster someone had tacked up years ago. "Teamwork together, everyone achieves more," and tried not to scream. That weekend was brutal. My mom had a bad episode Saturday night, got confused, and tried to leave her house at 3:00 a.m. I spent Sunday installing new locks, arranging for a home health aide she couldn't really afford but needed, and crying in my car in the Walgreens parking lot because I was buying adult diapers for the woman who taught me to read. Monday morning, October 30th. I walked into the office on 3 hours of sleep and found Darlene waiting at my desk. "Can we talk?" she asked. No preamble, no fake smile, just desperation, poorly disguised as professionalism. Back to the glass conference room. This time it was just her and me. "We are prepared to offer you a remote work arrangement," she said before I even sat down. "Full-time work from wherever you need to work, effective immediately." I stared at her, waited. There had to be a catch. And she continued, "A retention bonus, $95,000, 50% paid immediately, 50% after 12 months. All we ask is that you sign a 2-year commitment agreement and help us rebuild the team. $95,000. After 7 months of being told my role couldn't possibly be done remotely, after threats and humiliation and watching my mother's health decline while I sat in pointless meetings, why now?" I asked. She had the grace to look embarrassed. "We've reassessed the situation." "You mean you've lost 6 analysts in 3 weeks and realized you can't replace them?" "We've recognized that we may have been inflexible in our previous position." Inflexible, like it was a minor oversight, like they hadn't made me beg and gravel and threatened my livelihood for asking for basic human consideration. "I need to think about it," I said. Her face went pale. "The offer is time sensitive. We need an answer by end of business today." "Then you'll have one by end of business today." I went back to my desk, pulled up the email from the TechFlow recruiter, did the math. Their base salary plus signing bonus was actually more than Brennan's offer, even with the retention bonus plus equity plus a company that hadn't spent 7 months grinding me down. But it wasn't just about money. It never had been. I spent the rest of the day doing my job, answered emails, ran reports, had a video call with a client who mentioned offhandedly that he was surprised I was still at Brennan. "Heard there's been quite an exodus from your team," he said. "Word travels fast in our industry." At 4:47 p.m., I walked back to Darlene's office. She practically leaped out of her chair when she saw me. "I've made my decision," I said. "Wonderful. I'll get the paperwork. I'm declining your offer." She froze mid-reach for her phone. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm declining. But thank you for finally recognizing that my role could be done remotely. That's very validating. Meredith, please, let's discuss this. Is it the money? We might be able to." "It's not the money." I cut her off. "It's the 7 times I asked for help when my mother was diagnosed with dementia. It's the 7 times you told me no. It's the threat of performance management when I wouldn't stop advocating for myself. It's having to watch my entire team leave before you'd even consider treating me like a human being with legitimate needs. That's not we were following policy, right? Policy, which mysteriously became flexible the moment it started costing you something." She looked like she was about to cry. Part of me felt bad. Most of me didn't. "What if we increase the bonus?" she asked. "What if we, Darlene?" I said her name quietly, almost gently. "You could offer me $1 million right now and it wouldn't matter, because I can't trust you. I can't trust any of you. When I needed flexibility to care for my sick mother, you threatened my job. When you needed me to save your department, suddenly everything was negotiable. That's not a company I want to build my future with." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and I'll be using my remaining PTO starting tomorrow. All 3 weeks of it. After that, I'll be starting a position with TechFlow, Director of Analytics, fully remote." The look on her face, shock, panic, the dawning realization that they'd played themselves, almost made the last 7 months worth it. I spent my 3 weeks of PTO moving my mom into my apartment. It wasn't ideal, but with the TechFlow signing bonus, I could afford to modify the space, hire proper care during my work hours, be there for her in ways I couldn't before. My first day at TechFlow, I logged in from my home office, which was really just my kitchen table, but it was mine, and found a welcome message from my new team, including Kendra, Jacko, and Priya. "Heard you finally escaped," Kendra wrote in our team chat. "What took you so long?" "What took me so long? I guess I had to learn the hard way that sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting to make people see your worth. It's recognizing your worth, yourself, and finding people who see it too without having to beg." Brennan Systems lost 12 more analysts over the next 2 months. They eventually hired replacements, but from what I hear, They are still struggling to rebuild the institutional knowledge that walked out the door. Patricia retired early. Darlene was quietly reassigned to a non-management role. And me? I'm thriving. My team is crushing every metric. My mom has good days and bad days, but I'm there for all of them. And every single morning when I log in from my kitchen table in my pajamas with my coffee and my mother's safe in the next room, I think about that 9th-floor cubicle I used to sit in and feel nothing but relief. They offered me $95,000 to stay, but what they never understood was that it was never about the money. It was about being seen as a whole person with a life outside those office walls. And that apparently was too much to ask until it wasn't. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to choose between your job and caring for a loved one? How did your company handle it? And please hit that subscribe button because I've got more stories about corporate nonsense and the sweet calmer that sometimes follows. And to anyone out there fighting for basic flexibility while caring for a family member, you're not asking for too much. They're not being unreasonable. You deserve better. And sometimes the best thing you can do is stop begging and start leaving. Trust me on that one. I invite you to subscribe to the Azad Revenge Stories channel. Like this video and support me further by hitting the hype button so the story in this video can be heard by many more people. Thanks to all.